السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله الذي جعل جنة الفردوس لعباده المؤمنين نزلا ويسر لهم للأعمال الصالحة الموصل إليها ذللا وسهلهم طرقها فسلكوا السبيل الموصل إليها ذللا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله وخيرته من خلقه أرسله الله رحمة للعالمين وقدوة للعاملين ومحجة للسالكين وحجة للعباد أجمعين. بعثه الله بالإيمان ناديا وإلى الدار السلام داعيا. أيها الأحبة, tonight inshallah we are continuing our lecture series regarding the description of Jannah, the Jannah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised all of you, all believers. Is it clear, the microphone? It's okay. Type. Akhani fillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants to honor you. He wants to show His generosity to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He calls you to the land of peace. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you. He wants to welcome you to Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you to the home of peace. وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ بِإِذْنِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you to paradise and to His forgiveness. Ikhwani fillah, this is the call that you have all answered. And you as the Muslims, you as the people of Tawheed, you're all amongst the people of Jannah. Ikhwani fillah, on the day of judgment, after the people have been thrown to the hellfire and we have crossed the bridge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءُوهَا وَفُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we shall gather the people towards paradise and we shall open for them the gates of Jannah. Ikhwani fillah, Jannah has gates. How many gates does Jannah have? It has 8. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, الجنة لها 8 أبواب إن في الجنة 8 أبواب باب منها يقال له الريان لا يدخله إلا الصائمون. He says, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the Jannah, it has 8 gates. From this gate is the gate known as Ar-Rayyan. Only the people who fast shall be called from this gate. So ikhwani fillah, on the day of judgment, clearly you see 8 gates. From these gates, there's a gate, the people of Salah, the ones who perform a lot of Salah, the obligatory and the voluntary. That's one gate. You have another gate, the people of Sadaqah, the ones who give out Sadaqah, charity. Third gate, the people of Jihad. A fourth gate is the gate of, I continue, Ibrahim. And the fourth gate, ikhwani fillah, that we know of is the gate of, the first one I've said is the gate of Salah, the gate of Sadaqah, the gate of Jihad, and also this gate of Ar-Rayyan. Question, dear brothers in Islam. The gate of Salah is called the gate of Salah. The gate of Sadaqah is called the gate of Sadaqah. The gate of Jihad is called the gate of Jihad. The gate of fasting is not called the gate of fasting, it's called the gate of Ar-Rayyan. Why is it not called the gate of fasting? Now, Salah is called Salah, Sadaqah is called Sadaqah, Jihad is called Jihad. But this fourth gate, the one related to the people who fast voluntary, Monday, Thursday, they fast Ayamul Bid, they fast Sawm Nabi Dawood, they fast the Sunnah fast, Arafah, Ashura, they now have a gate called Ar-Rayyan. It is called Ar-Rayyan, it's not called the gate of Siyam, because, ikhwani fillah, Siyam is prohibiting yourself from drink, prohibiting yourself from food, prohibiting yourself from halal relations. And that is not the meaning of Jannah. In Jannah is for you to drink, kulu washrabu hani'an, drink, eat as an enjoyment. So the gate is called Ar-Rayyan. So the people are called from these 4 gates. Or these are the 4 gates we know out of the 8, the names. Some of the people, ikhwani fillah, they shall be called, come and enter from all of these gates. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiyallahu anhu, he asks, O Prophet, are there people who will be called from all of these 8 gates? He says, yes. And I wish and I hope that you're one of them. So if you want, ikhwani fillah, it's also easy for us. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says, when you perform your wudu, do your wudu very well. Then look up to the heaven. This is sunnah has been left. And say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. You just say this dua. On the day of judgment, you shall be called to enter from any of the gates of Jannah that you wish. Also, the Prophet ﷺ tells us about the woman. If a woman wants to enter Jannah, it's very easy for her. Prophet ﷺ says, إِذَا صَلَّتِ الْمَرْأَةُ خَمْسَهَا وَصَامَتْ شَهْرَهَا وَحَفِدَتْ فَرْجَهَا وَأَطَاعَتْ زَوْجَهَا قِيلَ لَهَا أُدْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ مِنْ أَيِّ أَبْوَابِ الْجَنَّةِ شِئْتِ. It says to her, if you pray your prayers, you fast your fast that is obligatory upon you, you protect your private parts from indecency, and number 4, you obey your husband, you shall be told, oh dear sister, enter Jannah from whichever gates that you want to enter. So Ikhwani fillah, we are the plains of judgment. You see these large gates. These gates are very large. ما بين مصراعين من مصارع الجنة مسيرة 40 عاما. The distance between the two pillars of one gate can take you 40 years to cover. 40 years to cover. And these gates initially they're closed. They're not open initially. Most of us who will come late will find it open, but the initial people will find it closed until one particular person has this gate open for him. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, أَنَا أَوَّلُ مَنْ يَأْخُذْ بِالْحَلْقَةِ الْجَنَّةِ وَلَا فَخْرٍ. I am the very first one that will be holding the ring of the gate of Jannah, and I am not boasting. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, نحن الآخرون الأولون. He says, وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ مَنْ أَقْرَعْ بَابَ الْجَنَّةِ. And I'm the very first one who shall be knocking on the gates of Jannah. So the brothers and sisters who are aliyah, وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ, the earliest ones, they shall find the gates initially closed. Then they see this beautiful man, this bright-faced man. They see Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam coming towards the gate of Jannah. And he comes and he knocks. And the angel he says, Man anta, who are you? He says, Muhammad, I am Muhammad. The angel replies, Bika umirt alla aftaha li ahadin qablak. I was commanded not to open for anyone before you. So the very first person who will be allowed admission, who will be allowed to sense or to see Jannah open is our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that is a virtue for him and a virtue for this ummah. Ikhwani fillah, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, one day he was sitting with his companions. Then he says, I hope that you shall be a quarter of the people of Jannah. قالوا فكبرنا. They made takbir, the Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ, he continued, he says, I hope that you're half of the people of Jannah. I hope, O Muslims, that half of the population of Jannah will be from this ummah, the ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. فكبرنا. The Sahaba, they started making takbir. In a different narration, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, entering Jannah is 120 lines, like the lines we have in our mosques. 120 saf, of which 80 saf are from the ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. 2/3 of this ummah, or 2/3 of the population of Jannah will be from the ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So the gates of Jannah, ikhwani, are opened, and Muslims and believers, they start entering it with their faces as bright as a full moon in the middle of the month. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he tells us that these people will enter it like they have one heart. La ghil, they have no evil hate or jealousy against their fellow brothers. All of them, the Muslims, they enter Jannah like one heart. Ala surati abihim Adam, in the face or in the image of their father Adam alayhi salam. Kana tuluhu sittuna dhira'an. He was at least 30 meters tall. So the person who enters Jannah is at least 30 meters tall. I don't know if it is the measurement of this world or the measure of hereafter. Adam alayhi salam was larger, more larger than us. We get shorter with time. So Adam alayhi salam will have like his beautiful face, his beautiful image. Also, ikhwani fillah, everyone will enter and their age is 33 years of age. The people of Jannah, all of them have the age of 33 years. So we enter Jannah, ikhwani fillah. وسيق الذين اتقوا ربهم إلى الجنة زمرا حتى إذا جاءوها وفتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوها خالدين. The angel Ridwan, who is in charge of the angels in Jannah, and his fellow malaika, they welcome you with the most beautiful faces, with the most handsome of faces. They are happy, they are smiling at you, they really welcome you, and the greeting they give you is Salamun alaykum tibtum. Peace be upon you. You smell nice. Your deeds were good. فَادْخُلُوهَا خَالِدِينَ. Enter Jannah in peace. وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ يَدْخُلُونَ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ بَابٍ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِمَا صَبَرْتُمْ فَنِعْمَ عُقْبَى الدَّارِ. They say to you, peace be upon you. Peace be upon you. You have indeed come to an excellent place. Ikhwani fillah, that is the greeting that welcomes the believers when they are entering paradise. So you have entered paradise, alhamdulillah. You have entered from one of the 8 gates, or you have entered from all the gates, like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, you've been called from all the gates. You find the smell of Jannah, the most beautiful smell that you have ever smelt. Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, he says, وَإِنَّ رِيحَهَا لَا يُوجَدُ مِن مَسِيرَةِ 40 عَامًا. The smell of Jannah can be smelt a distance of 40 years. Remember we spoke about the last person to enter Jannah. This person was seeing a tree, then a tree, then a tree. Remember this story? Why was he seeing these trees? Because the barakah of Jannah is so great that some of it spills out into the outside area. So you have trees growing outside of Jannah, and you have this smell of Jannah, this beautiful scent emanating from Jannah that covers a distance of 40 years. So the people are on the gate. The Prophet ﷺ says, ما بين مصرعين من مصارع الجنة مسيرة 40 عاما وإنه لأتين عليه يوم وإنه لكثير. It will come a day that these gates of Jannah, despite their large size, they're completely full of people who want to occupy Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored many of the people to enter Jannah. The Prophet ﷺ, he says in authentic hadith, as narrated by Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Abu Muhammad al-Hilali, who narrated from Amr al-Dinar, from Abu al-Qabus, Mawla Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, على عبد الله ibn Amr ibn al-As رضي الله عنهما عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن ارحموا من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء. This hadith, all the scholars, when they start their lectures, they say this is the very first hadith that they had from their sheikhs. And their sheikhs, it's a very first hadith that they had from their sheikhs, all the way to the Imam of the people of Makkah, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, who narrated from Amr ibn Dinar, who narrated from Abu al-Qabus, the slave of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, who narrated from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, radhiallahu anhuma, that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, the people who show mercy, الراحمون, the ones who show mercy, يرحمهم الرحمن, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show them mercy. ارحم من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء. Have mercy on the people of this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show mercy to you. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says, لا يدخل أحدكم الجنة إلا برحمة من الله. None of you will enter paradise except for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason we enter Jannah is because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us His mercy, and all of us have gathered at the gates of Jannah, and you are told, udkhuluha bisalam. Enter the gates of Jannah in peace. So you enter Jannah, ikhwani fillah, this beautiful smell. Then you start noticing things from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for you in Jannah. The very first thing you notice is the roads. The road, ikhwani fillah, the pebbles, the stones on the road. We in this world, it's made out of, what is it called? Asphalt, kokoto, concrete or tar, or so and so. The pebbles, ikhwani fillah, al-lu'lu wal-yaqut, pearls and rubies and sapphire. The soil, wa turbatuha az-za'faran, and the soil that you walk upon as you enter Jannah is saffron, which is the most expensive spice, so expensive that sometimes even a gram of it is even more worth than gold. Also, it is made out of white powder of misk, which is the most expensive perfume in the world. So this is the very first thing you noticed. Another thing that you are amazed with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيُدْخِلُهُمُ الْجَنَّةَ عَرَّفَهَا لَهُمْ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you to enter Jannah that He has made known to you. عرفها لهم, He has made known to you. Prophet ﷺ explains this. He says, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, says, by who my soul is in His hand, by Allah. إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ, one of you will know his house in Jannah better than he knows his house in this dunya. I've lived in this area for maybe 30 years. If you blindfold me, I might get lost to my house. But in Jannah, ikhwani fillah, you know your house better than you know your house in this world. So you walk on the roads of Jannah until you come to your mansion, your palaces that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised you. Then you see something amazing, an architecture the like you have never imagined, an engineering feat that you never thought possible. This was done by Allah and His angels. They have prepared for you a palace the likes of none other. غرف من فوقها غرف مبنية تجري من تحتها الأنهار. غرف من فوقها غرف مبنية. Mansions upon mansions built, and underneath it flows rivers from the rivers of Jannah. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that these palaces, these mansions of yours in Jannah, he says they have the wall, the rocks that built these houses or these mansions, لبنة من ذهب ولبنة من فضة وملاتها المسك الأذفر. It says that one brick is made out of gold, another brick out of silver. Your entire house is made out of gold and silver. And not the same gold and silver. This gold and silver, number one, it is held by not cement. It's held by misk al-adfar, the misk or musk that has the most emanating or most beautiful of smells. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, لَبِنَةٌ مِّن ذَهَبٍ وَلَبِنَةٌ مِّن فِضَّةٍ يُرَى ظَاهِرُهَا مِن بَاطِنِهَا وَبَاطِنُهَا مِن ظَاهِرِهَا. When you're outside, you can see inside. And when you're inside, you can see outside. This is gold and silver that is transparent. Not like the gold we have in this world. This is special type of gold, special type of silver that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared the mansions of the people of Jannah. The Sahaba, they asked the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, liman hadha? Who will get these mansions and these palaces of which the bricks are of gold and silver? He says, the ones who are good in speech, who at'am at-ta'am, they feed the food. We have Ramadan coming, we have the drought, they give people food. وَصَلَّى بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ النِّيَامِ, and they pray at night while the people are asleep. They perform the qiyamul layl. So ikhwani fillah, you enter your palace. Mansions upon mansions that this world you cannot describe. The vocabulary we have, ikhwani fillah, is so poor, is so weak. We cannot describe what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared in Jannah except by some of the names and some of the descriptions that our small minds can interpret. So you enter, ikhwani fillah, and you're welcomed in Jannah either by your servants or your wives to your house. And the very first food you have in Jannah, Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says that the first food the people of Jannah will have is fish. So some of you don't like fish, but that's the very first food. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says, ziyadatu kabat al-hut, that you will have liver from the whale. Also in a different narration he says, the first food you'll have is beef. You have a bull. This bull was created in Jannah, and it eats from the fruits, from the grass and from the trees of Jannah. It has been fattening up for centuries and centuries for you. So when you come, you are welcomed with this. Then the drink, the very first drink that you're given is from the pond of Salsabila. This is the very first drink that is given to the people of Jannah. So this is your house in Jannah that has rivers flowing underneath it. Next to your house, ikhwani fillah, you also have a tent, a pavilion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حُورٌ مَقْصُورَاتٌ فِي الْخِيَامِ. You have wives that are keeping their eyes down in this tent, in this pavilion that's next to your palace. So you have your palace, and next to it you have a tent. And this tent, the Prophet ﷺ, he says that it is made out of lu'lu'ul mujawwaf, a pearl that is hollow. طولها 60 ميلا. Its height, or its from the bottom to the skies, is at least 60 miles high. وَفِيهَا, and in it are your wives from the Hur al-Ain. And each wife is in a separate corner. They do not see each other. This is the palace and this is the tent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for you. Also, ikhwani fillah, you look at your property. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you property that is much greater than this world and anything in it. Your small mind and my small mind thinks that this entire world, if you had it, is a lot of wealth. But that is worthless in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that the position a whip occupies in Jannah is greater than this world and everything in it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for you rivers. And from these rivers are 4 main rivers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَثَلُ الْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي وُعِدَ الْمُتَّقُونَ فِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّن مَّاءٍ غَيْرِ آسٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for you a river of water. وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّن لَبَنٍ لَمْ يَتَغَيَّرْ طَعْمُهُ. And another river is of milk. Milk that never expires. Milk that never goes bad. وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّن خَمْرٍ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. Another river, a third river, in your own property. You have these rivers flowing. You have a river of water, not like the water of this world. You have a river of milk, milk that never goes bad. Number 3, you have rivers of wine. Wine that are pure pleasure for the people who drink from it. وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّنْ عَسَلٍ مُصَفَّى. And a 4th river from honey that is purified. So, ikhwani fillah, in your property, with your palace and your pavilion, you have these 4 rivers that are flowing underneath. River of water, river of honey, river of wine, and river of milk. You go, you decide, let me go drink from this river of wine. I've never tasted wine in dunya. It was made haram. Let me experience something new. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you, go drink. And you find this river, بَيْضَاءَ لَذَّةً لِلشَّارِبِينَ. It is white, completely white. And it is لَذَّ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. It is pure pleasure for the one who drinks it. لَا غَوْلٌ فِيهَا وَلَا هُمْ. You do not feel any intoxication. You do not feel any. What happens when you drink alcohol in this world? At least 4 things. The scholars say a person who drinks this alcohol in this world, at least 4 things they will get. Number 1, intoxicated. They will lose their mind. They start walking on the street and doing bad behavior. Number 2, they get headaches. They get, what is it called? This, no? Not migraine. Hangover. They get hangover. Number 3, they have to go to use the toilet a lot. They urinate a lot. And number 4, they vomit. But the alcohol of this dunya is not the same as the alcohol of akhirah. Khwani fillah, there's a Sahaba, I think it was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he says, there's a reason I didn't eat alcohol, I never drank alcohol. There's a time I saw someone drinking alcohol, and he goes and falls in the streets, then he starts seeing the feces on the ground, and he starts consuming from the feces. One of the people, may Allah guide them, he says he was intoxicated one night. It's not a good story. He says that night I saw a very beautiful lady at night. And I followed this lady for at least 2 hours, 3 hours. Her body moving was mesmerizing me. I was enchanted with the beauty of this lady. For 2-3 hours I was following what I thought was a lady. When my intoxication reduced, I discovered that for over 3-4 hours I was following a donkey. For 3-4 hours. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us salama. So these people, you in Jannah, you have your wine. So you go drink it. How long do you drink it? 40, 50, 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years. There's nothing sweeter than this. You're not drinking because you're thirsty. This is drinking because of pleasure. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarding you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving you enjoyment that you never thought possible. An angel comes and tells you, Tosha, enough. There's another river. Go take from the milk. Go take from the honey. Go take from, what else have we forgotten? From the water. On top of that, there's a river that the Prophet ﷺ has given specifically. You can also drink from it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Oh Prophet, we have given you from the river of Al-Kawthar. This river, ikhwani fillah, its water is whiter than milk. It's sweeter than honey. And this is the river that is specific to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The banks of which this river flows are made out of pearls, made out of gold. Its mud is smelling better than the most expensive perfume in this world, smells better than misk. So you go drink from it. Thereafter, after drinking for a while, now you want to eat. You look at the trees. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ كُلَّمَا رُزِقُوا مِنْهَا مِنْ ثَمَرَةٍ رِزْقًا قَالُوا هَذَا الَّذِي رُزِقْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ. So you see these trees that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared in Jannah. All these trees are full of fruits. And these fruits, you recognize them. That is an orange, that is an apple, that is pomegranate. You recognize them by their names. Then you wish for the fruit. You want to eat that fruit. The bad manners we have in this world, when people come like to the neighbor's house, if you have the guavas, you start throwing rocks so as you get. That's the bad manners we've seen, especially in our country, where people, they see you have a mango tree, they make sure they stone that mango tree enough times. But in Jannah, you don't need to stone. You just look at it, and the branch comes to you, and you take from it. Then you taste it, ikhwani fillah. It is not the same taste of this world. It is only having the same name, but it's not the same taste that you enjoyed in this world. So you have different types that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَحْمِ طَيْرٍ مِمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ. Then you see the birds flying in Jannah. Then you want some bird food or chicken, I don't know what you can call bird food, and you desire that bird that has been eating from the fruits of Jannah, from the nectar of Jannah, from the sweetness of Jannah, drinking from the rivers of Jannah. You desire that. That is the fastest food in the world. You have fast food here, KFC, which is 5-10 minutes. That one is 1 second. It's prepared in front of you. It comes down immediately. وَلَحْمِ طَيْرٍ مِمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ. From the meat of the birds that you desire. So this, you get immediately served over here. Then you have servants, ikhwani fillah. You have wildanul mukhalladun. You have young boys, they are there to serve you. They have cups, they have jugs, they have glasses from the ponds and from the drinks of Jannah. رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for them also from a tasneem, zanjabil, kafur, all this salsabila. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared many names for the people of Jannah. And these young boys are there to serve you as you're seated on your couches. This is the Jannah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised you, O Ibadur Rahman. After all this period, you go back to your house. And ikhwani fillah, you see your wife from the Hur al-Ain, or you see your wife from your wives of Jannah. And there's no beauty you have seen before like this. One of the scholars, he says, you look at your wife for 40 years, you do not blink. 40 years, you look at her, you do not blink. Because of the immense beauty, the immense smell that she's bringing forth. The Prophet ﷺ says, if a woman from the women of Jannah was to look upon us in this world, she will cover the entire space of this world with her light of her beauty and with her beautiful smell. وَلَنَسِيفُهَا عَلَىٰ رَأْسِهَا خَيْرٌ مِّنَ الدُّنْيَا وَمَا فِيهَا. And the scarf on her head is better than the world and everything in it. This is your wife. وَزَوَّجْنَاهُمْ بِحُورِ الْعِينِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, your wives in dunya will be there in akhirah. And also wives who were created from Jannah. They were born in Jannah. Their birth certificate shows Jannah. إِنَّ أَنشَأْنَاهُنَّ إِنشَاءً فَجَعَلْنَاهُنَّ أَبْكَارًا عُرُبًا أَتْرَابًا. And these wives of yours, ikhwani fillah, number one, they're the same age as you. You are 33, they are 33. Number two, they're very modest. They do not show anyone their love except you. Completely devoted to you. You are their husband. You are everything to them. They always hope for the time they can see you. Number three, they're always virgins. Regardless of how many times you go to them, uruban atraba, they always remain abkara, virgins, completely for the rest of eternity. And some other descriptions I cannot say because they are their children here. Or you close your ears. طيب. So you see your wife from the Hur al-Ain. The Prophet ﷺ says that she's so beautiful that you can even see her bones from under her skin. Her light, she's so bright you can see her bones. Even more so than her bones, you can see the bone marrow in her bones. She's so bright. Why is she called Hur al-Ain? Number one, extremely beautiful. Number two, she has large eyes. Number three, the whiteness of her eyes are completely white, the whitest of whitest. And the black pupils, the black, what we have in the middle, the pupils, they're the darkest. So Hur al-Ain are beautiful eyed women that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَمْ يَتْمِثْهُنَّ إِنسٌ قَبْلَهُمْ وَلَا جَانٍ. No one has ever touched them from amongst the jinn or the human beings. These are women who are prepared for you, O believer. So you go and you see your wife, you spend with her 1,000 years, 2,000 years. You go to your other wife, another wife. You have at least 2 wives from the Hur al-Ain. Some of the people, the shuhada, they have at least 72 wives. MashaAllah. Then this wife of yours, Ikhwani Fillah, she does something new. That our wives, let me not say some things. She does something new that you have never experienced before. She sings for you with the most beautiful of voices. And this increases your pleasure. It increases your ladda in Jannah. في روضة يحبرون. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that these wives from the Hur al-Ain, they start singing for you. They start playing with you, and they start singing for you from the beautiful of voices. نحن خيرات الحسان. We are the beautiful hurs. We were created for this noble man. We are there to increase their pleasure. So these are your wives from the Hur al-Ain. You go out, Ikhwani Fillah, every Friday. There's a place, a marketplace, where you go, you meet your brothers and your brothers. You meet, or the sisters meet the sisters. You meet your fellow Muslims in Jannah. A marketplace every Friday, the Muslims, they meet. They gather there. So they start talking with each other. They say, we used to be in dunya disturbed by these people of the hellfire. They used to give us such and such speech. They used to tell us, you Muslims are crazy. Do you believe that you're going to be resurrected after you die? You used to believe that you're going to be, there's a Jannah and there's a Nar. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the Jannah. These people, they leave the marketplace and they go back home. And when they go back home, their families are so happy. They're so glad to see them. And they say, Wallahi, you have become even more handsome than when you left us. You are more handsome than you left us. And you say to your wives and your children, Wallahi, you're even more beautiful than I left you. This is the Jannah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for the Ibadur Rahman. Ikhwani Fillah, when all this pleasure happens, and there's the greatest pleasure that remains now for the people of Jannah that we shall discuss after Isha, you praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything, all your breath, and every time you breathe is just subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanallah al-azim. This is how you breathe in Jannah. And you say, Alhamdulillah alladhi sadaqana wa'ada wa awrathana al-ardha natabawwa'u min al-jannati haythu nasha fa ni'ma ajrul 'amilin. This is the Jannah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised us, and all praise is due to Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all amongst the people of Jannah. That was just a summary, Ikhwani Fillah. Because of it's a darsa, let us not jump some of the topics. Let us just go through it quickly. We mentioned previously, Ikhwani Fillah, that Jannah is levels. When you enter Jannah, you shall be kept in the level that befits you and befits your deeds. Entering Jannah is with the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. But going up and scaling up in Jannah, it's based on your deeds. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that the person who memorizes the Quran, understands the Quran, it will be said to him, رتل اقرأ ورتل وارقى كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا. اقرأ وارقى كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا فإن منزلتك في آخر الآية. There are 6,236 ayah in the Quran. Every verse that you have memorized, you go up a level. So Jannah has levels. The higher the level, the better. And the highest level is known as الفردوس الأعلى. فهي أوسط الجنة وأعلى الجنة. It is the middle Jannah or the best of Jannah and the highest part of Jannah. فوقه عرش الرحمن. Above it is the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ومنه يتفجر أنهار الجنة. And from it comes the rivers of Jannah. So you start going up based on your deeds. So you recite the Quran, memorize the Quran. You've memorized how many surahs, how many juz, you go up in Jannah. So if you want at least 6,236 levels to be confirmed, just memorize the Quran. Very simple. Also in Jannah, the Prophet ﷺ says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared 100 levels from the highest levels in Jannah for the mujahideen fi sabilillah. The ones who strive, the ones who fight fi sabilillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for them from the highest level of Jannah at least 100 levels. All the mujahideen are not the same. So when you enter Jannah, you're not going to be able to be in the same level as everyone. There are some people who will be above you and some people below you. And the ones above you, you see them like a bright star in the heaven, very far away from you, like the distance between the dunya and between this earth and the heavens. It's very far. So you can see, that is the house of so-and-so, that is the palace of so-and-so. So you wish to visit them, they allow you to visit them, you go visit. Who do you want to visit? You want to visit Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you go visit him 1,000 years, 10,000 years, no problem. Go visit Musa, go visit Abu Bakr, Shaykh al-Islam, Ahmed Taymiyyah, whoever you love from the scholars or from the Anbiya, you go visit them. They allow you permission because they're in higher levels, you see them there. So there are people who are in the highest levels. And the highest level for the group of Muslims is Al-Firdaus Al-A'la. And on top of Firdaus Al-A'la, there is a position that's only for one person to be kept, and that is for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, when you hear the mu'adhin, فَقُولُوا مِثْلَ مَا يَقُولُ, say as the mu'adhin says. After you finish, you say, اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آتي محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة. When you say this, حلت بك شفاعتي. He says, the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, I guarantee you my shafa'ah. In a different narration, the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he says, سلوا الله الوسيلة فإنها منزلة. Ask Allah to grant me al-wasila, for it is a level in Jannah that none reaches it except one person. That is the highest possible level in Jannah, al-wasila. Ask for it to be granted to me. Whoever of you asks Allah to grant me as your Prophet, Prophet Muhammad, this level in Jannah, I promise you I shall intercede for you on the day of judgment, for you to enter paradise and for you to be saved from the hellfire. So this is the highest level, al-wasila, that is even higher, or it's the highest part of al-firdaus. The lowest level in Jannah we mentioned previously, Nabi Musa alayhi salam, he asks, oh Allah, what is the lowest level of Jannah? He says, this is the last man who comes. Then he's told, enter Jannah. He says, oh Allah, I went to Jannah and I found it full. He says, oh my servant, will it please you if I give you times 2, times 2, times 2, times 2 of this world? He says, أتستهزئ بي وأنت رب العالمين. Are you mocking me? Are you joking with me, oh Allah, and your Lord of the worlds? He says, no, I'm not joking with you. I give you times 4, times 10, and everything you desire, and everything you wish. This is the lowest level of Jannah that has been granted to the lowest person in Jannah. How is it the highest part of Jannah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that is فيها ما عين رأت, where the eyes have not seen it, ولا أذن سمعت, the ears have not heard, ولا خطر على قلب بشر, and no one has ever thought of or imagined. أعددت لعبادي الصالحين ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر إن شئتم فاقرأوا قول الله سبحانه وتعالى فلا تعلم نفس ما أخفي له من قرة أعين جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. So Jannah has levels. Not all of us are in the same levels. All of us are different to the Iman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the prophets, تلك الرسل فضلنا بعضهم على بعض. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لا يستوي منكم من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل أولئك أعظم درجة من الذين أنفقوا من بعد وقاتلوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لا يستوي القاعدون من المؤمنين غير أولي الضرر والمجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالهم وأنفسهم فضل الله المجاهدين بأموالهم وأنفسهم على القاعدين درجة وكلا وعد الله الحسنى وفضل الله المجاهدين على القاعدين أجرا عظيما. The mujahid, the one who performs jihad fi sabilillah, is not the same as the one who sits. The one who gave out sadaqah, gave out jihad before the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca is not the same as the one who came Muslim after the conquest of Mecca. Not all the Muslims are the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ آنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ سَاجِدًا وَقَائِمًا يَحْذَرُ الْآخِرَةَ وَيَرْجُو رَحْمَةَ رَبِّهِ قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Are they equal, the ones who know and the ones who do not know? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises the believers' levels in Jannah. But the ones who are given knowledge, the scholars, the people of ilm, they are raised even higher. So ikhwani fillah, the same way we spoke about hellfire being levels, the lower the level being bad, Jannah is also levels. The higher the level, the better it is. Also, ikhwani fillah, in Jannah, there is no sleep. Why is there no sleep? No? You don't get tired. Okay? Sleep is the brother or the sister of who in this world? Sleep is minor what? We said minor what? Minor death. And in Jannah there's no death. So there's no sleeping in Jannah. That's number one. Number two, there is no spitting. The people who have the habits of spitting, there's no spitting in Jannah. Number three, there's no mucus. Number four, all this food and you drink, there are no toilets in Jannah. There's no self-contained, there's no ensuite in Jannah. You don't need a toilet. Why do you need a toilet in Jannah? Whatever you eat, whatever you drink comes out as a burp of misk or comes out as sweat as misk. Are you together? Number five, there are no bachelors in Jannah. Number five, there are no bachelors in Jannah. Number six, there are no old people in Jannah. Hakuna wazee Jannah. Everyone is the age of 33. And so on and so forth. Also in Jannah, khani fillah, there is no day, there is no night. There's no sun, there's no moon. The sun and the moon have been thrown in the hellfire to harm the people of the hellfire, not as a punishment for it. So in Jannah, there's no day, there's no night. There's only some time you can tell, يُسَبِّحُونَ بُكْرَةَ وَعَشِيًّا. They make tasbih in the morning and the evening. You can see the changes in light that you know maybe this is now day or this is night. But there's no day or night per se. Also in Jannah, khani fillah, are rivers and also there are ponds or springs. There are springs that gush out of Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَعُيُونٍ. That the believers will be in gardens of paradise, وَعُيُونٍ, and they shall be given springs or in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فِيهِمَا عَيْنَانِ تَجْرِيَانِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ يَشْرَبُونَ مِنْ كَأْسٍ كَانَ مِزَاجُهَا كَافُورًا عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ يُفَجِّرُونَهَا تَفْجِيرًا. So apart from the rivers, also you get drinks from these springs that gush out of water. A river flows upon the ground underneath your palaces. These palaces most likely they're suspended. They don't have any columns. Wallahu alam, we don't know. We just imagine it. Why? Because they have rivers flowing underneath. And if you were to use your weak mind, you might assume that. Also in Jannah, khani fillah, are the palaces we mentioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Ibadur Rahman, the ones who are promised the highest levels of Jannah. He says, أُولَٰئِكَ يُجْزَوْنَ الْغُرْفَةَ بِمَا صَبَرُوا. They shall be given the highest levels of paradise because they were patient. Question, khani fillah, what were you patient upon in this world? You are patient upon three things. You are patient upon three things. Number one, you are patient upon doing obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Waking up for Fajr at 4:30 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning is not easy. But you woke up and you prayed your salahs. You never left your salah. You gave out zakah, yet you love your wealth. You gave out zakah. You gave out sadaqah. So obedience of Allah, you are patient in doing the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. Number two, you are patient not to disobey Allah. You saw those beautiful ladies, but you left them. for the sake of Allah. You saw those colleagues of yours or your fellow students going out and partying, raving or drinking. You didn't go with them. You left it for the sake of Allah. So number 2, you're patient with regards to the obedience of Allah. And number 3, you're patient whenever a musibah, a calamity befell you. Whenever a calamity befell you, someone died, someone was harmed, or you said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Qadar Allah wa ma sha fa'al. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed and He does as He wishes. We have accepted Allah's decree. So if you're patient upon these 3 things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised you all these things. Salamun alaykum bima sabartum. Also in Jannah, Khani fillah, we said that these palaces, يُرَى بَاطِنُهَا مِنْ ظَاهِرِهَا وَظَاهِرُهَا مِنْ بَاطِنِهَا قِيلَ لِمَنْ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ قَالَ لِمَنْ أَطْعَمَ الطَّعَامِ وَأَلَانَ الْكَلَامِ وَتَابَعَ الصِّيَامِ وَصَلَّ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسِ النِّيَامِ. The ones who feed. If you want to get a great chance to have your palace in Jannah, then feed the people. Also, we have some mosques. People are building mosques. If you want your house in Jannah, Man bana lillahi masjidan bana Allahu lahu bayta fil Jannah. Whoever builds a house for Allah, Allah will build for them a house in Jannah. You want trees in Jannah. Prophet alayhi salatu salam, he saw Nabi Ibrahim when he went for Isra al Mi'raj. Nabi Ibrahim, he says, "O Prophet, say assalamu alaykum to your ummah." Say wa alaykum salam to Nabi Ibrahim. He says, tell them that the trees of Jannah are subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. This is how you get many trees in Jannah. We spoke about the houses وَمَسَاكِنَ طَيِّبَةً فِي جَنَّةِ عَدْنٍ أُولَٰئِكَ يُجْزَاوْنَ الْغُرْفَةَ. We spoke about the mansions that are prepared for the people of Jannah and also the tent. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ لِلْمُؤْمِنِ فِي الْجَنَّةِ لَخَيْمَةٌ مِّن لُؤْلُؤَةٍ وَاحِدَةٍ مُجَوَّفَةٍ طُولُهَا 60 مِيلًا. Says that for every believer is a tent in Jannah made out of pearl. You know what pearls are? Where do they come from? It comes from the sea, yes, from oysters. Yes. So you get a different pearl. The pearls of this world are this small. But this pearl that's prepared for the believer in Jannah, that your tent is built with, is hollow. And it's 60 miles high. لِلْمُؤْمِنْ فِيهَا أَهْلٌ. In this tent are your families, your wives. يَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ الْمُؤْمِنْ. You go to each wives. فَلَا يَرَى بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا. They never see each other. They never see each other. Ikhwani fillah, also in Jannah, we mentioned the issue of trees. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared the trees for the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ مَفَازًا حَدَائِقَ وَأَعْنَابًا. They have gardens of trees and other fruits. فِيهِمَا فَاكِهَةٌ وَالنَّخْلٌ وَرُمَّانٌ. You have different types of fruits. Also you have dates and you have pomegranate and rumman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared trees in Jannah. Some of these trees, ikhwani fillah, is a tree that is called the tree of Tuba. This tree, a person, the fastest rider, will take at least 100 years to cross this tree, the shade of this tree. And the clothes of the people of Jannah come from this tree. The clothes of the people of Jannah are made out of silk. People wear the silk that is made haram for us as men, is what they wear in Jannah. Also they get bracelets of gold and silver, and they get other rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. So there's a tree that 100 years you cannot cross it. And from this tree comes the clothes, or some of the clothes of the people of Jannah. And all of these trees, the trunk, you know the trunk that holds the tree, it is made out of gold. All the trees are made out of gold. Also, ikhwani fillah, there are some things I've left, sorry, it's a darsa, we have to finish everything. Everyone enters Jannah at what age? In the face of, looks like their father, Adam alayhi salam. The food of the people of Jannah, we've already looked at that. كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا هَنِيئًا بِمَا أَسْلَفْتُمْ فِي الْأَيَّامِ الْخَالِيَةِ we have looked at the alcohol or the wine of the people of Jannah. It is wine that does not intoxicate. يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون. لا يصدعون عنها. They will never get صداع. They will never get headaches. The first food. What is the very first food the people of Jannah will eat? The liver of fish, of a whale. And also from the bull or the beef that they will get in Jannah. And the first drink they will drink is from the pond of, or the spring of, Salsabila. Why do they eat or drink? Why do you eat or drink in Jannah? Not for hunger or for thirst, just for pleasure. Also you have cups, you have jugs, and you have glasses in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُطَافُ عَلَيْهِمْ بِالصِّحَافِ مِنْ ذَهَبٍ وَأَكْوَابٍ. And these are made out of gold or silver or transparent silver, qawarir. The clothes of the people of Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُحَلَّوْنَ فِيهَا مِنْ أَسَاوِرَ مِنْ ذَهَبٍ وَلُؤْلُؤَهَا وَلِبَاسُهُمْ فِيهَا حَرِيرٌ. They wear from silk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَحُلُّوا أَسَاوِرَ مِنْ فِضَّةٍ وَسَقَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ شَرَابًا طَهُورًا. They are given bracelets made out of gold or silver. In a different ayah. So you're given also clothes that are made by the angels or made from special plants that are silk and different types of silk. Also in Jannah, عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ مُتَّكِئُونَ. You have thrones. Everyone is given thrones. And they're given also crowns in Jannah. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ مُتَّكِئُونَ. Also you have servants, and these servants are, who are the servants of the people of Jannah? Naam? The young, not men, boys, they're actually boys. يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين. Allah says, يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا. When you see these young boys, you think they are like pearls. Also we mentioned that there is a marketplace in Jannah, that the Muslims come to it every Jannah. A wind comes and blows on their faces and their clothes, and they increase in their beauty, they increase in their strength. Also, Ikhwani Fillah, the man in Jannah is given the strength of at least 100 men with regards to food, with regards to drink, and with regards to his family, with his wife. Also, Ikhwani Fillah, in Jannah is whatever you want. ما تشتهي الأنفس. Whatever you wish. One day the Prophet ﷺ was with his companions. Then one of the Sahaba, he asks Prophet Muhammad, he says, not him, there's a man in Jannah who will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, I want to do some farming. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you have everything you want, why do you want to do work? So he says, I just want, it makes me happy to do farming, to do agriculture. So Allah tells him, okay, do whatever makes you happy. You're here to enjoy, to get pleasure. So this man takes a seed. When he drops the seed, the roots form, the tree forms, and he harvests that tree immediately. One of the Sahaba who was there, a Bedouin, he says, Wallahi, this man must be from the Quraysh or the Ansar, for they are the farmers. We are people of livestock, we will not imagine such a thing. Another man, he goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, oh Allah, I do not have a child in this world. I want a son. To give me happiness in this Jannah, give me a son. And he's given a son immediately. It doesn't take much. The wife gets pregnant immediately and gives birth immediately, and they get a son. So some of the wishes of the people of Jannah is that. Also we mentioned the issue of the wives of the people of Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُهُمْ فِي ظِلَالٍ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ مُتَّكِئُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make sure, أُدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ أَنْتُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ تُحْبَرُونَ. You and your righteous wives will be in Jannah. And your wives are more even beautiful than the Hur al-Ain. And these wives, Ikhwani Fillah, in Jannah, they do not menstruate, they do not defecate, they do not have nifas, they do not have any filth, they are always pure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ كُلَّمَا رُزِقُوا مِنْهَا مِنْ ثَمَرَةٍ رِزْقًا قَالُوا هَذَا الَّذِي رُزِقْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَأُتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَهُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. They have wives who are always pure. Question. A woman, the husband died. Then this woman remarried. Then that husband died. Then she remarried. Who will she be with in Jannah? Now, with the last one. That is the opinion of most of the scholars. They say that the wife will be the final husband. So if you die and you really love your wife, tell your wife not to get married if she wants to join you in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَذَلِكَ وَزَوَّجْنَاهُمْ بِحُورِ الْعِينِ, that the believers will be given wives from the Hur al-Ain. What is the meaning of Hur al-Ain? Their eyes are what? Now, the white part is completely white and the black part is completely black. And these women are created from Jannah. They have never been created or never seen in this world. And you have at least 2 wives from the Hur al-Ain. Also these wives, they sing for you. They sing for you in Jannah. And the person is given the strength of how many people? 100 men in Jannah. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah, after the Salah Isha, we are going to look at the greatest pleasure of the people of Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all amongst the Jannah. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-jannata wa ma qarraba ilayha min qawlin wa amal, wa na'udhu bika min an-nari wa ma qarraba ilayha min qawlin wa amal, birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.